Film, gaming, pop culture. Welcome to episode 27 of Everything is Permitted here at Wade's Comic Madness. I'm your host, Julian Brown, alongside my co-host, Matt Reppert. And where's Brittany?
I don't know. Where is
Brittany? Well, Brittany is working here at Wade's Comic Madness today, so that was scheduled a long time before we asked her to be our newest co-host, so she will actually be joining us later in the show. She is here. She's just manning the store while we intro to the show, but she'll be talking about all the D23 stuff. I know last week, Matt, we talked about how we were going to be doing D23 coverage and talk Destiny.
Yeah, but there was too much.
Well, yeah, as it turns out, D23 has just took a giant dump on the world with all of this information that's coming out and all of these big movie announcements. So consider this your D23 special. Pretty exciting stuff coming out of there.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a lot of interesting stuff. A lot of stuff that I'm like, as I said, I'm not totally pumped for everything, but all right, Disney Plus, you probably grabbed me to buy your basic Disney Plus package. All right, you got me. You got me. We're gonna get into what got me.
Yep.
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there, but time to put it all on the table.
Before we get into that, I do want to give a quick plug because of some things that were announced at D23. I want to give a quick plug to Wade's Comic Madness, and if you don't live near us, if you're listening in other states and you have comic shops around you, and you heard about these announcements, which we'll talk about with Miss Marvel, She-Hulk, Moon Knight, your local comic shop has all the books that you could possibly need to get introduced into those characters. So please check out your local comic shop. Come here to Wade's Comic Madness if you're local. Buy a Miss Marvel volume, buy a She-Hulk or Moon Knight volume. Comics are a great way to get introduced to these characters.
The gateway drug to your nerddom, if you will.
You will spend hundreds of dollars, and you'll thank me for it. So, all right, let's get to the big story of the weekend. The reason we're skipping the permitted minute and all of that, because all of the news is coming out of the D23 Expo out in California. We are very lucky to be joined by, I've always wanted to say this, our West Coast correspondent, Heather Borjon. She's also our social media coordinator, one of our two social media coordinators, because Brittany still does that. So, Heather, welcome to the show, finally.
Thank you. I'm glad to finally be on.
So you have been our kind of D23 guru, and I know you're short on time here, so I want to quickly get through some of these points with you, some things that I know that you were specifically excited about, but just a more general question to start. What was the most exciting announcement that came out of D23 specifically for you? What's got you going?
I think just kind of having Disney Plus fleshed out a little bit more, because Disney's been talking about it for, I want to say, over a year now, and we haven't really heard about a lot of the content specifically. We've heard, this will be there, and now we've had trailers, we've had stills from different shows, and so it's just been really cool to see what's actually going to be on the service. One of the most exciting things is not only is it going to be super affordable and the bundle's going to be amazing, there's supposed to be no commercials, according to some of the information I've received.
Matt, you just made a fist bump about the bundle.
I mean, the bundle is nice. The bundle's nice, and I've already expressed my trepidation about Disney and them not wanting to make money, because they're right now no commercials. This bundle, it's only for this amount of money. It's gonna be awesome. It's not gonna stay that way. It will not stay that way. I promise you that.
Heather, what do you think? Do you think it's gonna stay that price, or are we eventually gonna get a price increase?
I think we might see incremental increases like we've seen with Netflix over the years. It started at $7.99, and now kind of the most desirable package is $12.99. So I mean, it's gone up slowly. It hasn't been all of a sudden, hey, we're going to charge you a lot more. And so it'll probably go up here and there. Hopefully, it's not like what Disney's done to their annual pass holders over the last 4 years, but where we've really seen a hike. But I think with their streaming service, we'll see how it goes. They might offer, similar to Hulu, where there's a commercial package and then a non-commercial package along the line.
Right now, I have to say, before we get to the next point, that I am not thrilled with how much I am now paying for Netflix, especially with 4K content. I think that's a subject that we've talked about on the show briefly before. Hopefully, we don't ever get to that point with Disney Plus. It's probably likely to happen. But let's move along. So much to cover at D23.
So moving away from streaming services a little bit, Heather, what do you think about the new Avengers Park that's going to be happening?
I am so excited. Everybody was freaking out when they rethemed Tower of Terror here in California to the Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, and it has been a phenomenal success here. They really took all the best elements from the collector's collection and kind of threw them in there, and it's constant. It is actually changing. They'll take stuff out and they'll put stuff in because you're supposed to be going through one of his collections, like a traveling museum. And so when that first opened, we had the Avengers little portal off to the side, and it was just rumors for years about what that was going to be. We had a feeling that Bucks Land wasn't going to last because that was a knee-jerk reaction. Because when California Adventure first opened, the biggest complaint was there wasn't enough for small children. So within the first year of California Adventure being open, they opened up for smaller children geared rides. And so that shut down. Recently, they've actually taken the Flix Flyers, rethemed it, and threw it over on the other side of the park, and now it's an Inside Out themed attraction. And so
That was a fun movie.
Yeah, I love that movie.
It comes out in 4K.
I actually
September
was
10th.
just in Disneyland Paris about a month and a half ago, and they're also doing an Avengers Land, and what's going to be amazing is it's going to all kind of be interconnected. So you'll have a little bit of a different experience at each land, even though for the most part it'll be the same, but there's going to be different features that will vary, and it'll all be interconnected. So it kind of sounds like you'll be able to interact with people at the other parks and other attractions, and that also includes the attractions, the Iron Man coaster as well, and some of the Asian parks.
Heather, it looks like from some of the early designs that they've shown from that the Avengers Park portion is really set to look like the Avengers compound that's absolutely brutally destroyed by Thanos at the end of Endgame. Is that the idea, or is it going to be a little bit more general?
No, I have heard that is part of it, along with some stuff from Stark Industries. Right now, one of the main attractions, it seems like it's going to be open first, is the Spider-Man attraction. And so it's not clear whether that's going to resemble something to like what they have at, I believe it's the Island of Adventure. Probably not, because there's a lot of touchiness between Disney and Universal, and that's why we probably won't see something to this caliber in Florida, because they are very limited on what they can do in Florida with the Marvel properties because of Islands of Adventure being in such close proximity. But I know the Avengers compound is definitely part of it. It's about 2 years ago, their whole theme was Summer of Heroes in California Adventure, and so they did a little recruiting show, and so you got to join either Black Widow or Hawkeye and join the Avengers. So I think that's definitely going to take prominence as part of the Avenger compound idea.
So, Heather, sticking with Marvel stuff, the Loki series, which will take place following the Loki that got away during Endgame, are you excited for the series, and do you think he has a shot at redemption?
Loki has been Marvel's biggest gray area over the years. Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? He's gone for both sides. We've even seen that in the cinematic universe where he's been one of Thanos' lackeys, but then again he'll redeem himself and stand up for Asgard. So it just kind of depends on how he's feeling that day. It was announced. We were all kind of like, where does this fit into his timeline? Since, all right, he died in this timeline, but then I always called him my cockroach because he always comes back somehow.
Most
and
accurate.
when he showed up in Endgame, I turned to my husband and I was like, I told you. And he just rolled his eyes. And so it makes sense that it's going to be the one that now has the space or the Tesseract again and moving around. So I think it's going to be him just kind of creating chaos. So I'm sad it's not going to be longer, though. It's only going to be 6 or 8 episodes.
Oh, so it is a limited run. They're not doing a full like season by season
Tom
series.
Expensive, man.
That's kind of what I've heard so far.
Yeah, Matt just said Tom Hiddleston's probably pretty expensive.
Oh, of course. Those British actors.
Yeah.
And plus, it's just a
But
normal
one thing I
BBC
noticed in the
season.
Recent announcement is it will be directed by a female, which is kind of a new turn for Marvel in general.
Yeah, a lot more. Well, not a lot more, but definitely seeing more of an influx of female directors. Let's switch over to the Disney side of things real quick. Frozen 2. I know that I watch Frozen every day because of Cecily, my 3-year-old daughter, who is obsessed with with Anna and Elsa. I think one thing, guys, Brittany, Matt, Heather, we can all agree on, we were talking about it on chat before we started recording, no one really knows what's going on with Frozen 2. It's kind of shrouded in mystery. It seems like it's going to be a lot darker. What's going on with Frozen 2?
So we still don't know much. We do have a new poster, but it's still very ominous. You see Anna and Elsa in the middle of a frozen forest. It does look like it has more of a fall theme to it. So I was kind of thinking back to when they did the Tinkerbell movies that were straight to home video, and each movie kind of had a different season. So where Frozen, the movie, takes place during summer, but then they turn it into winter. So I'm wondering, are we going to get fall and spring together? But we do know Rachel Wood has been announced as playing their mother, which at first I was like, she's my age. Adina Menzel is like 20 years older than I am. But then we realized, somebody else mentioned that it was going to be happening, her scenes are during flashbacks. So we're going to learn a little bit more about their relationships. Maybe they're going to bring in another family member with magic powers. They did feature Anna and Elsa in the Once Upon a Time series, and part of that story arc was that there was an aunt that had ice powers, and it was the Ice Queen.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if they're going to toss it back up to what the storyline that they brought in from Once Upon a Time, but it's definitely going to be interesting. I have music from the Broadway Frozen musical, and there are some songs that do get a little dark. So it's going to be interesting, I think, because their audience is getting a little bit older now. And kids love dark stuff. I think they're really kind of playing up to that.
I'm not gonna lie, I saw Frozen in theaters before I even had kids. So I'm excited about Frozen 2. I mean I love Disney. Matt, you made a bit of a joke earlier saying that Elsa's almost becoming an Avenger the way she was.
I saw that one
freezing
trailer
the
where she's on the beach and she starts freezing the ocean. Like, what is she doing right now? Is she like?
She's training.
She's training.
She's training for what?
For Phase 4.
For Phase 4.
She just couldn't get over the waves to make it to the end game finale.
Exactly. She's like, Thanos, I'm coming.
No, I want Elsa in the Blade movie. Michelle Ali is like there, and all of a sudden Elsa steps out of the shadows, like, oh my god!
Oh man! All right.
Ice stakes through their hearts.
Obviously, you guys have read way too much fan fiction.
Not nearly enough now.
Heather, before we let you go, I know this isn't necessarily D23 related. You mentioned it on the chat, something to move away from that just for a second, and we'll come back to it. You mentioned to me that, and we talked about this, I think we touched on it for a minute or two last week, that Loot Crate has filed for bankruptcy.
Oh no!
Yes.
Oh no!
I'm honestly not surprised. Anyone who's had any of their subscriptions lately, you don't get your stuff in time.
We can attest to that. Karen ordered the Captain Marvel box and didn't get it for like 3 months.
They super secret promise that they will get all their stuff out before they go bankrupt.
Huh.
They pinky swore. Okay.
Make that happen.
Well, we will certainly
Not
see.
surprised.
Heather, anything else you want to add from D23 before we let you go?
Not much. I might have to call in next week because they're doing the park announcement in the next hour or so.
Oh, that's right.
They're gonna probably flesh out the Avenger campus a little bit more. They did tease at a Moana attraction because they are going to. It looks like they're redoing the front part of Epcot Center,
West Coast
which
snobs.
was kind of the World of Tomorrow area. And so they have a Moana attraction that is going to go in that space as well. So I might have some more stuff to talk about next week.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you taking the time coming on now, and maybe we will talk to you next week about those attractions. Have a good one.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, so that was Heather Borjon, our West Coast guru, our Disney expert. We have so much more to talk about for D23, though. So
all
let's.
the good stuff out there on the West Coast, man. We ain't getting anything.
I know,
over
right?
here.
No, we're really not. You
Over
know,
here, I'm like, Keystone Comic-Con was fun.
Tom Holland currently on stage, I think, at D23. So I mean, not
At
thank you. You were at Comic-Con yesterday, and you got to meet a couple of awesome
Voice actors?
video game voice actors.
Yeah, I met Troy Baker and Nolan North, who I've been trying to meet for so long, but they're always on the West Coast or like in Europe, and I was like, please come to the East Coast. And they finally did, and I met them. They signed my The Last of Us and Uncharted games, and they do a cool show called Retro Replay on YouTube. So, big fan. I've live tweeted them so many times, and I was like, hey, I'm finally here.
Are you excited that, and this is a great segue back into D23 and Marvel, are you excited about Nolan North doing Iron Man in the Avengers game?
And Troy Baker's also going to be in the Avengers game as well.
Is he Banner? Or is he someone else? I forget.
I'm trying to remember who he is.
I think he's Bruce.
Maybe. I
Well,
don't know.
we'll find
I'll
out
have to
later.
look it up. We'll redact that.
Let's get back to D23 here. We just talked a lot about the Loki series. Let's stick with Marvel for a second. Because they also shed some new light on the Falcon and Winter Soldier series. And we know that at the end of Endgame, old Cap, gave Sam his shield. But apparently in this series, he's not going to be Captain America yet. I think it's going to lead to that. But apparently Sam has some issues, trying to live up to Steve. And the show is going to touch on that. Is this one of the shows that we're excited about? Are there other ones we're more excited about? I can't wait to see kind of this dynamic between him and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I'm 100% there just for their chemistry. Even off screen, they're just like the best of bros.
They're buddies.
Like, you see them when they're interviewing, and it would just be nice to see those two characters that kind of didn't get much of the limelight in the movies, but are very solid characters, actually interact and then work towards both of them carrying on Cap's legacy, in their own way.
I'm interested in seeing it, and honestly, like after all this, I might get the basic Disney Plus. Like I probably won't get the pack just because I am very curious about a lot of the stuff that is coming out to see it. I think though somebody said it best in regards to Falcon being Captain America is they have to be careful on how they play this because, in my opinion, is that Falcon can't just be Captain America because Captain America had the serum, so that he's a super soldier, so he can jump out of a 10-story building and land on a shield, and he's fine. He walks away from it. Falcon is just a dude
with
he's
a
just
suit,
a guy with a suit, so he can't be throwing the shield and it bouncing off 3 people unless they kind of explain that somehow, he gets some kind of
exosuit around his body.
Maybe not exosuit, but maybe he gets some kind of super soldier serum light somehow. I mean,
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't follow. Obviously he was Cap, and then he gave up the shield during, I believe, Secret Wars when a version of Steve went evil and was Hydra. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if he did a lot of shield throwing in his comic run or not. I know that they changed the color scheme of the suit. I just don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Well, Bucky, on the other hand, has the arm and super soldier powers. Well, so
I was reading that I guess they cast somebody as U.S. Agent, I guess,
yes,
as the character, and he probably he's supposed to be the new Captain America, but he basically goes insane and becomes a villain. So that's probably going to tie into Falcon's. I don't think I'm ready for this. This guy is the new Captain America.
Kind of like what they did with Mysterio and Peter.
Yeah, I was about to say, whatever he does, just don't give the glasses to Jake Gyllenhaal. That was literally the joke I was about to make. You beat me to it.
Well, no, you actually told the joke, so you get full points
ding,
for
ding.
that one.
I love Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio, by the way.
He was
I know
really
we haven't
good.
Talked about it, but
he was. We never talked
that's my
about.
favorite part
we never
of that
reviewed
movie.
Spidey on the show.
That
MJ.
Yeah,
I mean, we'll talk about it at some point.
It's because it was that mid hiatus.
It was. Also coming back to that series is Baron Zemo, the villain from Civil War, being played by the same actor, Daniel Bruhl. Mm-hmm. We talked about him when we were casting Indiana Jones. Yeah. Interesting because apparently he's going to be in full regalia this time with the purple mask. I think they're modernizing it a little bit. He's not going to look like a straight up cartoon.
Wait, what?
But he is going to have his supervillain outfit, quote unquote. So he will be one of the villains. I'm excited for this show. We talked with Heather about the pricing and everything. I mean, just the first things we have on our outline here are Loki and Winter Soldier and the Falcon. That pays in my mind for Disney Plus alone. Speaking of shows that pay for Disney Plus alone, also going to be debuting is the WandaVision show with Vision and Scarlet Witch. Gonna be a comedy, I guess, because
it
Darcy's
sounds like a sitcom already, like WandaVision, and I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Darcy from Thor is in this movie, and apparently the agent, whose name I forget, from Ant-Man and the Wasp is gonna be in it.
Oh yeah,
as well.
I love him.
So I mean, those are two strong comedic actors, and I mean, I guess Paul Bettany has a little bit of that dry British humor, and which was a little bit shown in Civil War. I'm not as excited for this show.
No, I'm not either, because like part of the thing with lighthearted and comedy for me is when I know where you're going to end up and it's not lighthearted and comedy, that kind of kills my enjoyment of that thing, because like, oh, Wanda and Vision are just out there having fun, having a good time. Remember Vision gets the gem ripped out of his forehead and he's dead? Remember that one?
One of the most like brutal MCU deaths, like by far.
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
And people were like, "Oh no, he'll come back," and I was like, "No."
I don't
that was
think
his
they
life
could
lesson.
hand wave it.
They could have.
I thought
but
I thought they were going to, but they
Snap, Vision's back.
Well,
Here's
I
the stone.
actually thought that Shuri, like, because she scanned him in Infinity War, she was going to make him without the gem and be like, "How did you guys not know how to do this?"
She might still
that
do
still
that.
could
honestly.
very
I mean,
well
she still
happen.
could do that.
Black
so.
Panther 2.
Oh,
That's the next
dude,
plugin.
We will.
There you go.
We will get to that.
Shuri will fix any problem, retconning issues in the MCU. She alone will be like, Marvel, I solved that 8 years ago.
I know a lot of people like to, stick with one area and then go to the other and go to the other. We're gonna bounce back and forth a little bit, because
Yeah.
that's the way I like to do things. Let's go to the Star Wars universe. They finally dropped the full trailer for The Mandalorian. First off the bat, let me just say, this does not look mouse ears approved, man. This movie series looks dark.
That makes sense, though. The Mandalorian's like, I'm sorry, bounty hunters? Like, it's not going to be kid-friendly.
Yeah, I'm also like, the vibe I got from the from the trailer that I watched is the movie Solo, which is not a bad thing. I liked the grittiness, the grunginess of the like, I actually want to see that side of Star Wars. I want to see like these guys aren't whipping out lightsabers and using the Force. Like, these are just dudes who have guns, who have knives, who have spaceships, and that's how they get by. Like,
and they're in a world with magical people that have those weapons and powers. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I want to see.
Yeah, they live in they exist in a galaxy with magical space wizards, but they do their own thing.
I mean, the show, like the trailer, sets the tone right away. I mean, there are stormtrooper helmets on pikes. Like, things are bad, and this does take place after the fall of the Empire. So, who knows if the Mandalorians are like hunting stormtroopers down, hunting like Empire officials down.
Well, I don't know if it's still canon or not, but like Mandalorian was always just a title. Like, anybody, like any person, anybody could be a Mandalorian. It was just a lifestyle that you lived by, almost like
Jedi?
Well, Jedi, you need to have
I know,
magical
but I'm just
space
saying,
powers.
No, not magical space
midichlorians,
powers,
bro.
guys. You got to have medical.
Exactly.
She got it. Now you beat me
both,
to it.
you both. But Mandalorian is a lifestyle. It's almost like being like a Buddhist or something.
Or,
but,
vegetarian.
So I don't think that's accurate, only because if we're going to get off track here for a second, but I think it's necessary to your point of the Clone Wars series, which shows Mandalore and the warrior race.
yeah,
that
and they
are.
did exist as a people,
Right.
but like once their home planet was destroyed and they were kind of scattered
Yeah.
to the four winds, it was like, all right, we can't be picky because our people are essentially dying out. So, hey, if you're willing to be one of us, you can be one of us.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, we will see on that aspect. What I was very interested to see was, I guess it is his ship flying over wastelands, and Mandalore is a wasteland of a planet. They live in these little, bubble world, like bubble habitats, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if Mandalore is actually going to be in the show.
They better, because that's the best show to do it in.
Yeah.
They're not going to show it in any movie. It's going to be the show.
Yeah.
I don't know, because once again, like, I don't know if it's still canon, but the Knights of the Old Republic showed Mandalore, the game, years ago, like, and Mandalore was just like nothing. It was wrecked entirely.
Well, that's like blown up.
Not Alderaan. On a scale of 1 to Alderaan, how messed up was the planet?
It was pretty messed up. It's been years since I played
So
the game.
that's how, like, Mandalore is, like, if you go to it and you see it from the outside, it's a wasteland. But they have to go into these, like, basically, like, I don't know how to explain it.
Well, to be fair,
Like
though,
underground
is that
societies?
to be fair, Knights of the Old Republic takes place like 10,000 years, so you could be like, oh, Mandalore is semi-habitable again after literally being almost destroyed by Revan.
And it'll also be interesting if it's just going to focus on this bounty hunter or more of the culture, because the Mandalorians have been both enemies and allies of the Empire, and they're being very specific about this show taking place after the fall of the Empire.
Yeah.
So
Ooh, that reminds me. In The Force Awakens, when they visit Maz, where she's at, the various flags and stuff that are outside, there is a Mandalorian flag. So I was always wondering, I was like, when's it gonna happen?
Yeah.
And I know that was like a low-key small thing they did for certain fan groups, like there were cosplay groups that, are always doing.
Yeah, there were a bunch of.
But I was like, Mandalorian, let's go.
Yeah. I'm excited for the show. I'm excited for that. I'm more excited, and we're not going to really touch on it because they didn't announce too much about it. It was the Rogue One series.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear more about that. I think their Mandalorian comes out in like a few short weeks, so they're obviously pumping that up. It's launching with Disney Plus. So I will be watching that. I guess we will be reviewing that when it comes out. Let's flip back to Marvel. 3 potentially amazing series announced from Marvel with the surnames Miss Marvel, She-Hulk, and Moon Knight. All 3 series being announced. Miss Marvel is exciting because there was talk about a Kamala Khan Miss Marvel movie, but instead we're going to get a series, which I think is, she's more like street-based anyway. She's not, right now at least, in her career in the comics.
She's hip with the kids.
Yeah, she's hip with the kids, and she is a kid. So I like this idea of doing a series.
One thing I like about... I shared a meme about this earlier. I don't know if you guys saw it, but when they brought Brie Larson in for Captain Marvel, she right away was like, well, I don't understand why Marvel doesn't incorporate all these other groups of people. It needs to be more diverse, whatever. And as soon as she said that, then all of a sudden they're like, oh, by the way, we're doing these things, Phase 4. And then she's like, wouldn't it be funny if we had Kamala Khan and Miss Marvel, and now it's like boom. And she said one other thing, and now they're doing that too. And I'm just like, oh, look at Brie Larson bringing in the big questions. Is it really Mickey in charge, or is it just Brie?
I was about to say, is Brie running the MCU?
I think she's just putting those questions out there, and then the internet's like, oh my god, that's a great idea. And then they kind of put that leverage on Disney, because then all of a sudden they're like, oh, we won't announce any of these other films. I know it ties into up ahead. We'll talk about Black Panther 2 and Captain Marvel 2 while they're a little further in the future, and I think it's because they want to do all these other bring these other characters and shows into light.
I'm also stoked about She-Hulk, Jessica Drew, because she has an awesome run right now in the current Avengers book, where she's just a badass, and she's a little bit sleeping around with people, and
She-Hulk do what she wants.
Exactly, She-Hulk do what she want. I can't wait for this. I wonder how they're gonna do it though.
As long as she's a lawyer by day, She-Hulk also by day, we're good.
Yeah. If it's
So wait, is she in court and objection, Your Honor, overruled?
Literally flexes on the other party.
Sustained. And then I'm not gonna lie, Brittany, I don't know if you know much, or Matt, Moon Knight. I'm not really up on Moon Knight.
Yeah, I'm not really up on Moon Knight either. I could not tell you much about it. I mean, I don't know much about any of these characters. I just don't. Yeah, I'm interested. All right, let me see what you have. Let me see what it looks like. But I could not tell you the first thing about any of these 3 characters. I mean, I'm interested in Moon Knight because, and this is going to sound ridiculous when I tell you this, is I played it's a pinball game on Xbox, and they had a list of Marvel tables, and the Moon Knight table was one I was always interested in with just what was happening on it. So, as I said, I know nothing about these 3 characters, and when I think She-Hulk, I just think of Hulk, except it's a woman, so I know nothing about She-Hulk. So
She-Hulk, I think in past iterations has been a cousin of Bruce's. I don't think that's the way it is anymore. I know of her, and I'm reading all about her in Avengers right now. I'm not exactly sure how she gets the gamma rays, other than that she does become She-Hulk, and she's more aware as a Hulk than Bruce.
Oh, for sure. She's what they wanted to do with Professor Hulk.
Yes, exactly. All right. We talked about this last week, and I went on a little bit of a rant about people saying the word confirmed. Well, Disney finally made it official that the Kenobi series is happening on Disney Plus. Ewan McGregor came out, I'm sure, to tons of cheers. You're already smiling because of your Phantom Menace shirt. You're so excited.
Well, aside from that, it was just the fact that you went hardcore ranting last week, and I approve of that. It's still valid because people are still doing things like that. But it's just funny that you're wait till it's confirmed, and then you're by the way, this week it's confirmed.
So I'm just gonna play a slight trivia here, because in case you can't see it, we're all wearing Star Wars shirts.
Oh, it's hilarious.
We are. I said I said before we got here, wear your favorite Disney, Marvel, Star Wars shirt. Everybody wore a Star Wars shirt.
But because Brittany is a huge Darth Maul fan, she probably already knows the answer to this. But Julian, I'll ask you, who dubbed over and actually did Darth Maul's voice in Episode 1?
I hate you so much right now because I knew the answer and I don't think I do anything. Hold on.
I'll give you a hint. He is in the MCU.
Well, Ray Park played him.
Yes.
I love
But
it.
he did not voice him.
Who did the voice? Because Ray Park has kind of a Cockney accent, so it was not him.
You bested me.
Paul Bettany.
Son of a bitch.
Vision
No.
himself.
Really?
Dun, dun, dun.
Vision is Darth Maul.
Yes, he did.
Mind blown.
Yep, Ray Park played him, but like that whole at last that was
At last, the
Paul.
Sith will have their revenge.
Yep, that
And
was
you're
Paul
like,
Bettany.
that's your voice?
So now that I completely derailed our discussion,
Okay. No, let me come back at you. Who dubbed over Ray Park in Solo as Darth Maul?
that I cannot tell you.
Sam Witwer, the voice of Darth Maul in the Clone Wars.
It comes full circle.
Boom!
Oh, wait, I forgot to show you guys the back of my shirt. Not that the
Oh,
audience
God.
can see, but look, it says...
If you can only see, it says Jedi do
Jedi
not
do not
concern me.
concern me.
I had a cooler shirt, which obviously couldn't fit me anymore, but I had it as a child, matching with my brother. It's a Darth Maul shirt that said, "The Sith will have their revenge." And that's before, eventually, they had Revenge of the Sith as a third movie, so I thought I was really cool going into, like, 5th grade when the third movie was the thing, and I was like, yeah, that's right, they said the Sith would have their revenge that long ago. It was great.
But they didn't because
didn't,
Obi-Wan Kenobi chopped his ass in half.
Yeah.
And now we're getting the series.
But now we're
But-
gonna, as I said before, we're gonna watch him cook or something on Tatooine. Like, oh, this meat is slightly burnt.
Okay, but let's get down to it for a second because obviously that's not going to be the show.
No.
What if you could guess? We'll go in a circle here. Brittany first. What do you see this show being about?
It's going to be a large exploration, I think, of Tatooine's subcultures. So, I don't know. Like, Kenobi, what he's doing on Tatooine has to be more interesting than what they... it's not just a man in a desert.
Not letting his
Gonna make-
clothes get dirty.
How he's
and-
interacting with everybody else.
Washing
And
his
maybe
robes.
it's going to delve a little deeper into his backstory, hopefully, and just more Jedi culture. So
Well-
it'll explore more of, like, him dealing with that, being that he's isolated. He might think that he's arguably one of the last of the Jedi, not counting, like, Luke and Leia. But,
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be... I think it's going to be a lot of, like, emotionally deep stuff.
He thinks he's one of the last Jedi, accepting the literally dozens that exist in games. I always find that funny. I'm like one of the last Jedi. Like, how many? Like, there's a lot of them out there, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't know
Force
that because they
Unleashed.
weren't allowed to communicate with each other.
I know. I'm just having fun.
I know.
Plus, if we look at it kind of like in an X-Men way, where, like, there's bound to be that sort of, like, not a mutation, but, people in midichlorians are constantly, like, born or appear.
I'm sorry. What are metachlorians?
They're little tiny things in your bloodstream. I'm not going into
They
it to
let us
explain.
talk to the Force.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Anyway.
All right.
Lucas.
So my feeling for the Kenobi
Ridiculous.
show is, first of all, I hope they do not bring Darth Maul into it. That, like we've talked about in a previous episode, that thread was already tied off in Rebels, and it was done very well. And I think bringing a live-action Maul into this, that would cheapen what they did in Rebels, and I would not enjoy that. So, all right. So Maul is out of the equation. So I could see there being like maybe some kind of Jedi bounty hunter who maybe catches, like maybe Luke inadvertently does something with the Force that like he's like, that kid is like can slightly use the Force, and Obi-Wan is now trying to stop, kill whatever this guy before he figures out who Luke really is.
Yeah, man, it's going to be interesting to see. They have a lot they can do with it. Obviously, Jabba is a force on Tatooine. Yeah. They're going to probably deal into like the crime lord aspect of it. I mentioned that last week. I'm cautiously optimistic. All right, so that was Kenobi. Let's go back again, flip-flop in here to Marvel. Two big announcements. Black Panther 2 set for May 2022. That's a ways away. Still a big announcement. People have been waiting for it. They knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And then also that, I know Brittany's super stoked for this. I'm super stoked. Captain Marvel 2 is in development. No date set on that yet. Brittany, I know you wanted to touch on this because you talked about like introducing these new characters before they get to these. Why so long for these sequels?
I think they just have really solid fan bases, and Marvel's not worried. You know, they know the fans will wait for it. Black Panther, when I went to see that, came out like the week of my birthday that year, and I was waiting for that movie forever, I swear. But that was an experience. Being in the theater and just seeing the amount of people going to see it, and also just the diversity in people actually going to see it, I was like, this is what comic films need to be. So, I know for a fact whenever that comes out, people will show up in droves to see it, because the first film was just that big among fans. And then Captain Marvel 2, it did the same thing. But, you know, scores of women everywhere went to go see it. So Marvel knows they're set with these things. They know the actors aren't going anywhere. Hopefully they'll work on getting another, you know, solid plot going on, good characterization, and if they play it safe, then they're good. They're set for another, 4 to 8 years.
Brittany, do you think that these characters have a chance to show up in other, movies or series
definitely.
before then? Like, could Captain...
I think that's what's going to happen.
Could Brie show up in Miss Marvel to be like
Easily.
her coach?
I mean, did
like...
you see the bottom, the little dot they used after Miss was actually the symbol for Captain Marvel? That's right. I didn't see much of
Boom.
D23, but I zoomed that image in,
Drop
and I
in
was like, is
knowledge.
that what I thought? But yeah, I think that's also another reason that they are putting those main stories back, is that, like, T'Challa and Carol are just large characters that are definitely going to show up in other movies. It would be stupid not to put them in more. And Brie Larson also signed a contract for like 9 movies, I think.
Oh, so she's showing up in...
Yeah, so she's supposed to be basically like the leader of this next wave in the Marvel Universe. So she's going to be showing up in other films for sure.
Brittany, I know you, Brittany unfortunately has to work here at Wade's today because of scheduling issues. So we're going to let her go in a minute. But I know that you have some really strong feelings, and I want to get to this. The kind of the elephant in the whole world right now, not just the room, is the Marvel Sony Spider-Man split. You have, I know, some strong feelings. Matt, I'm sure you have some opinions on this as well. I'm just going to let you loose. Go.
Okay. Well, I was just going to start the preface by saying I'm in no way, like, a pro-Sony person, like, oh my god, they're an amazing company, blah, blah, blah. I just was not surprised at all when this news happened. I mean, I was a little surprised after the success of Spider-Man that it would happen so soon. But as soon as I heard it, I was like, well, obviously Disney went back to their contract and are doing the same thing that they were trying to do when Andrew Garfield was Spider-Man, where they wanted more money, they're getting more greedy, and they want to take more from Sony when they're already giving them 100% of the merchandising they're getting money for, and Sony's footing the bill for the films. Like, Sony is only making so much money off of Spider-Man, so of course they're going to hold on to one of their best assets that they still have. And while I want eventually all the Spider-Man rights to be back with Marvel, as it makes sense, like, Marvel did sell those rights when they were going through tough times in the 90s, like they did with a few other things. And without that, Marvel probably wouldn't have gone under, but would have been suffering greatly. So I get what they did and why they had to do it. But, like, as far as this is concerned, Disney's probably going to buy them out or come up with something, and it's all going to be solved anyway. Tom Holland, it's not like he's never allowed to be Spider-Man again. It's just that Disney doesn't get to claim that it's theirs. And if Disney would just stop trying to buy every single company and character in the world, which is getting very dangerous, by the way. Like, it's monopolizing the industry. It's, like, not even funny anymore. Like, to me, it's very concerning.
I didn't say it at the beginning.
I know. I'm not
No.
saying,
I was going to say, I didn't say it at the beginning of the show, but I wanted to. You're seeing D23 right now, and it is actually pretty alarming and scary to see just how much Disney owns of, like...
Because we can't even cover all the updates, if you think about it. Even if you're looking at what we have so far, it's just, like, the main big things. But if you break it down to all the companies they have and all the things they're affecting, like, even bringing in Hulu, it's scary. So that's why when I saw this happening, I was like, okay, well, it was a cash grab anyway for Disney. Someone who is financially able, somewhat, to say no to them did, and had, the documentation to back it up. But for how long it'll last, I don't know. So that's why I didn't care when it happened. I'm like, you know what, it's going to be fine. Eventually he'll be back in the MCU, or movies will still happen, but...
My feeling is, and I actually agree with Brittany in regards to Disney monopolizing essentially the entertainment industry and what they're doing. It's like, and I've said in the past that, like, I'm not a fan of, like, this whole consolidation, like with streaming services or with a lot of other things. And, like, Disney owning this many properties, and as Brittany said, like, Sony actually kind of stood up to them and said, look, we're not getting money from them. And I believe, like, Spider-Man Far From Home was actually, like, the most successful Spider-Man movie.
It broke the $1 billion mark.
Now, granted, I'm sure Sony got like a nice chunk of change from like whatever fee Marvel/Disney, and I'll just say Disney because they own Marvel, that Disney paid them. But I mean, if you're Sony, you see them making over $1 billion, and you're like, well, we got paid like, let's say $50 million, and that's nice and all that, but why aren't we getting like 100 or 200 million from this? And then all the merchandising and all this other stuff. And if Sony doesn't get any of that, I understand why, as a company, they're going to say, like, look, we need to negotiate a new deal here.
Yeah. I am under the impression, and while I said it is alarming and scary that Disney owns, like, so much that, like, we are literally devoting our entire episode to D23.
To literally one, like, conference? I don't know.
One conference, yeah. The D23 Expo, it is all Disney.
Yeah.
And I mean, listen, this is something that they're not just talking about like Disney movies. Like they own National Geographic. They announced this new Jeff Goldblum reality show.
I mean, they own they own The Simpsons. Like all the Fox properties that they bought. Like
my only counterpoint to all of this, and I agree with a lot of points that Brittany said. I agree with a lot of the points that you said. My counterpoint to this is that if we're talking specifically about Marvel and the MCU, I want Disney, or before Marvel made the merger with Disney, I want Marvel to own all of their properties again. I hate the fact that we have to have these different universes. It doesn't make sense to me. And it doesn't make sense to me even more that they build up Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man to be the next Tony Stark and this big relationship with him, and now not just him, but him with Happy, who is a very big part of those movies. And then, wait, hold on. Spider-Man 3, probably, if nothing happens, won't... Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
So, I honestly think that Sony has like a really like they kind of have like Disney like in a corner.
They have them by the balls
because basically, like, as you said, they had set Spider-Man up to be the next Tony Stark. The relationship with Happy, the fact that he kind of is almost inheriting his legacy, and all that. And basically, Sony now comes to the table and says, "We want to negotiate the deal that you did," and because like. Spoilers if you haven't seen Spider-Man Far From Home, but the reveal, and I'll pause for a couple seconds here, but the reveal of Peter's identity at the end of Far From Home is like a huge game changer in the MCU. There's a lot of fallout from that, and Marvel just can't drop that now.
No.
They can't ignore it. So Sony essentially got them right in the corner and said, we want to redo the deal. And I mean, Disney has the money to basically offer whatever Sony wants. If Sony's like, we want like half the gross, Disney can go, sure, whatever, go nuts. Like, we'll give it to you. And that will not affect Disney's bottom line, period. So, I mean, honestly, it was a smart move by Sony to wait until the movie was out, because they knew it was going to happen, because they developed the movie. And then like, hey, we know he's going to be a big part of the MCU going forward. It's time to go back to Disney and say, we want a new deal.
Yep.
So...
I don't like it. I don't like this whole thing. It's driving me crazy. I hate it. I think it's petty on both sides. I hope that something gets resolved. I hope that they listen to the fans, because no one's happy about it. Like I can't.
I actually like, because I remember all the memes that came out after it happened, and people were like bashing Sony, ignoring the fact that, well, what would you do in their place? Like,
yeah.
I mean, I actually side with Sony as much as I can side with any big corporation that doesn't care.
I wouldn't have sided with Sony at all, or given them like any of the benefit of that, which I'm starting to do a little bit, had Into the Spider-Verse not been the success that it was.
Yeah.
And even though Venom is kind of split down the middle, I enjoyed it. Had that not been good, and now that they have Andy Serkis attached to directing the sequel, who knows? We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I honestly, like, it needs to be talked about. I hate talking about it. Mm-hmm. Like, it just, these kind of things with these massive companies who have fuck you money, being in these kind of situations. So let's move on before I start screaming about it. So Pixar, obviously, back with Disney. They split for a while. They've been back for a few years now. They announced a couple of animated films, Onward
and
with
Soul, I think was the
and
other
Soul, one? Yeah. With I know does Soul also have Tom Holland?
I don't know. I didn't delve too much into either movie. I'm okay. I'll be the first to admit I love Pixar.
Yeah.
I own like almost all of their movies in 4K steelbooks, and I've been dreading September 10th for the longest time, because if you didn't know, they're releasing almost all of the movies that they haven't released in 4K Steelbook. So Ratatouille, Inside Out, even though I haven't seen it, The Good Dinosaur, the first two Cars movies, like they're all coming out on the same day, and I can't buy them all because like it'd be like $300 something just for those movies.
Have you picked and chose which ones you're...
Like Ratatouille is a must buy. I love Ratatouille, one of my favorite Pixar movies ever. I'm debating getting like Cars 1 and 2 on that day. I know Brave, which I know you're planning to get, that comes out on that day as well. I didn't like Brave that much, but eventually I'm looking to get it. Because as I said, I love Pixar.
Yeah.
They do great movies, and also I think Toy Story 4 comes out on that day.
Yeah. I read a really cool thing right before I left to come here, that this specifically Onward movie with Tom Holland and Chris Pratt, like when they do the voiceovers for these, they do them, separately. The actors aren't always together. Apparently, Chris Pratt and Tom Holland did a few of their scenes together for like emotional weight, because this is apparently going to be a bit of a deep movie, maybe a la Inside Out a little bit. Did you see Inside Out?
Yes, I loved Inside Out.
Yeah, it was really
like
good.
Pixar, and I think that because I read a little bit before we did the show, but like Soul will essentially cover like what makes a soul in a person, kind of like Inside Out, but
with
in their own
emotion.
Pixar way. And I mean, if you haven't seen Inside Out, it is an amazingly emotional journey about like growing up and the mindset and the emotions that are inside of a child that is basically on the verge of becoming a teenager.
Yeah.
And I loved Inside Out.
Yeah. Also announced during that was Raya, which is I think it's going to be like a straight Disney animation film, which I guess is going to deal with like Asian dragon lore, which is really cool. But that's not going to be like Pixar animation. It's going to be like
Disney animated studios,
which is pretty sweet. And then in like just a few short weeks, Maleficent 2 is coming out.
I could not care less.
No.
About that.
See, I didn't see it originally, and my dad had nothing but amazing things to say. He's like, I love Maleficent. He called my nephew Nikolai all the time Little Beastie, because that's what Maleficent called the girl in the movie.
So I'm going to put this out there right now. I do not like Disney's live-action remakes. Lady and the Tramp, which I watched the trailer for, and Maleficent, like, first of all, I don't understand why, the first Maleficent, okay, you wanted to show that maybe she wasn't as bad or whatever like that, which I disagreed with. Maleficent worked perfectly as she's just bad. She's a bad witch, a bad whatever you want to call her. She is just bad, and she basically was upset that she didn't get a party invite, so she wanted to kill an infant.
It seems like they may be going back to that in Maleficent too.
Okay, but you're now undoing the first movie,
right,
where you basically establish, and I haven't seen the first movie, but I've seen enough reviews that I know what happens, where the whole love's kiss and everything basically comes from Maleficent to wake her up, to wake up Sleeping Beauty. So, all right, you've now established that there is good in her, that she cares for this little girl, and she loves her, and all that. And now you're calling the second Mistress of Evil. Like, what are you doing with this character now? Like, oh, she loves her and so much, and now she's going to go pure evil and start killing everybody. What was your plan? And furthermore, as I said, like the live action Lady and the Tramp, like just stop it, Disney. Like, I'm getting all these vibes from their direct to video shit in the late 90s, early 2000s, like live action Aladdin, live action Lion King. And I'm not saying they're bad movies, but it's just like they're not needed. You're not doing anything new. You're just doing the same beats. It's just, it's modern. CG.
I heard from a couple of people that Aladdin actually ended up being very good. I haven't watched it yet. I want to. I have my thoughts on Lion King. Pound for pound remake, like, scene for scene. Just a little bit like shallow. Like, you just don't get the animation from,
you don't get the same emotion from their expressions.
I don't care about Lady in the Tramp. I mean, I love the original. I don't care about like seeing real dogs, suck on some spaghetti,
and then like with computer faces so that they're talking.
Yeah. I'm intrigued about Emma Stone as Cruella de Vil for this 101 Dalmatians. Everybody's making the comparisons that she looks like a 2-cent Helen Bonham Carter.
Yeah, it takes place in the 70s, I read. So it's like, all right, so you're moving it from the time era that it was actually originally set in the 50s.
Sticking with let's talk about Angelina Jolie, who plays Maleficent. Going back to Marvel, Eternals, which sounds like the next big Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Now, admittedly, I know of the Eternals. They show up in the comics a lot. I've never read like specific Eternals books. I just know of the characters. Angelina Jolie cast in that movie. And then the huge news: Kit Harington cast as Black Knight for the Eternals. Oh, you look not thrilled.
Here's the thing about Kit Harington is I don't picture him as a great actor. I just don't like what how much acting did he really do as Jon Snow?
I mean, I thought he was very good.
I mean, he had his moments, don't get me wrong, but he basically was the stoic, like, oh, I must do my duties. That was...
There was a lot more to Jon.
I mean,
but you admittedly also haven't watched the
True,
show.
But like, I've watched a
full
lot
through.
of clips. Like, I like the clip when he basically beats Ramsay almost half to
Yeah.
death. But but the thing is, I've seen Kit Harington do one or two other things. Like, he did the motion capture and acting for, and I know this is going to sound as ridiculous as it is, but a Call of Duty game for Call of Duty, I want to say it was Infinite Warfare. He was the main villain, and I just was like, this guy is just...
Yeah. We'll see. The minute they announced that he was joining the MCU, Wolverine was trending because everybody thought they were going to cast him as Logan.
Oh my God.
For X-Men. I said to Karen, and Karen scoffed. He's like, he's a weenie. He's like tiny. I'm like,
That's
well, to be
Wolverine.
fair, Logan is not actually a tall character. Logan is short.
Yeah.
But needless to say, I'm happy that wasn't the announcement. I want Marvel and Disney to take their time with the X-Men. I don't need anybody cast right now.
No.
Get a story going. And I know Kevin Feige has something going. I know he said it, but take your time.
Yeah.
Take your time. We're still getting over Endgame.
I still think that, like, and going slightly back to Black Panther 2, one of the reasons that it's taken until 2022 is that they haven't decided what they're going to do going forward.
I hope it's Namor in
the
that movie,
bigger-
or
bigger
Namor, or however the
universe.
hell you pronounce his name. Yeah. Let's end the show with probably a couple of like biggest reveals from D23, and that's Rise of Skywalker. A really cool poster for the movie release. You nothing's making you happy today.
I know we talked about this at length, and, now it's basically the Emperor is on the poster. He's watching over Rey and Kylo. It looks like engaging in their fight. So great. We're going to have Emperor Palpatine in this movie.
Apparently, he's a big part of the movie.
And I said this before, but you've now added a character that you're going to have to do a lot of backstory to, that you're going to have to explain where he came from, what he's doing, what his goals are, all this other stuff.
How he's alive.
How he's alive.
If
and that
he's
takes
alive.
away from the Rey and Kylo Ren story, which was supposed to be the focal point of this
Well,
trilogy.
from what I understand, it's not going to take away from it at all. It's actually like that is like why he's back. Is like that movie is going to center around those two and him, and I don't know if you read and heard about the footage of Rey in dark robes with a red Darth Maul like double-sided lightsaber. Probably a vision, probably not actually
I'd
Dark
say-
Rey, but still, like, what is going to happen?
But once again, we're taking beats from the original trilogy. The Emperor, I mean, granted, he was seen briefly in Empire in like a holographic projection, which originally I think was an old woman that they used in the original.
No, he had some weird name, the actor.
I thought it was an old woman, but
No, it was a guy, but it was.
Okay.
I mean, and
but,
it was
whatever,
horrible.
but whatever is that once again we're bringing the Emperor in for the third movie. He's gonna try and tempt Rey to go to the dark side and do something with Kylo and blah blah blah.
But plot
And
twist,
stop me
maybe
if
he
you've heard this
does.
before.
They said they're doing some groundbreaking stuff with this movie. That the
The movie is not going to end with Rey and Kylo like running off to be dark Sith lords together. That's not. Gonna
Wouldn't that
happen.
be a hell of an ending, though? Right? Right?
That would. don't
Am
get
I
me
wrong?
It would be, but that would subvert my expectations. but not in a good way, because the thing is that like one of the reasons that I watch Star Wars is the good triumphing over evil, because like, oh great, after 9 movies it was all for the bad guys to win.
You, my friend, are hard to please, and I like that. I like having the differences of opinion. I like that. I do want to say, I want to ask as we close out, since you are very hard to please on these subjects, out of everything that we've just talked about for the last hour or so, what excites you the most?
I'm going to say The Mandalorian. As I said, I like the grittiness of Star Wars, and I've said this before, I don't think they're going to conclude this new trilogy in a way that's going to satisfy a lot of people, and probably myself included. I mean, as much as I have enjoyed the new movies, I acknowledge they have major faults. And so the Marvel stuff, as I said, I'm interested, but I'm, unlike Brittany, I'm not as big a comic book person, so I can't tell you much about Ms. Marvel, She-Hulk, or Moon Knight. Kenobi is like,
You're kind of like me, a little bit cautiously optimistic about
I'm
it.
cautious just because Ewan McGregor, returning to a role that I give the man credit. He took a role that was iconic and made it his own.
100%.
Like, the fact that, because everybody was like, could he really, top, Sir Alec Guinness? And he did.
Yeah.
Like, he perfectly, as I said, he played the man and made it his own. So, Falcon and Winter Soldier, I'm also interested in, but as I said, I need to see how they handle Falcon, with the shield, and so to speak, and how they're going to handle the characters. So, out of everything, I'm going to say Mandalorian. So, what do you got?
Well, obviously, Brittany had to go to work. We'll get her what she's looking forward to most at the beginning of next week's show. She'll be back with us full time next week. For me, I don't want to piggyback off of you, but that Mandalorian trailer did all sorts of things for me.
Yeah.
It looks great. I'm stoked that it's in basically 6-7 weeks,
Yeah.
November. So when Disney Plus launches, I want to be excited about Star Wars because I love Star Wars. We're all wearing Star Wars shirts. I love Star Wars. This movie is not.
Doesn't generate the buzz.
No,
I remember you said that, I think, last episode. That
it's
there's
not
been nothing.
Even after this poster and hearing about Rey wielding a double-sided red lightsaber, show me something. The movie comes out in 3 months. You are not hyping this movie like it's the end of the Skywalker saga. What is going on?
I know.
I want to be excited, and I'm not. I don't get the goosebumps. I had no shit. I had the goosebumps for a whole year between Infinity War and Endgame. Okay? That movie, Last Jedi did not set up Rise of Skywalker. Infinity War, dude, all the stakes were on the table. You had something to be ridiculously excited about and wondering what was going to happen in Endgame. I have no idea what the fuck Rise of Skywalker is going to be about.
Well, I mean, even then, and I'll be the first to admit this, the trailer for The Force Awakens still gives me chills. The way they remastered the music and did this cut of it and everything. Awesome build up to a movie that was it was okay. But, that trailer got me hyped for it. I was like, I can't wait to see this goddamn movie.
No.
Rise of Skywalker, I'm interested. all right, I'm just kind of all right, I want to see how this ends. Are they going to do something good with it?
I need a second amazing trailer.
Yeah, and that's why, and I'm legit surprised that if they had shown a brief trailer and let's say Rey does have that, you could have ended it where she just turns it on and everybody's like, oh shit,
yeah, man,
she go and then the trailer goes to black and that's it. Something like that would have got me hyped. I would have been like, all right, you know what, I'm interested, I want to see it. How are they going to do this? Is it a vision? Does it happen? Blah blah blah.
Mandalorian.
Yep.
Super stoked, can't wait. And then honestly, the thing that got me super excited were these three Disney Plus series, plus the announcement of the fact that they made it official, Black Panther 2 and Captain Marvel 2, because I'm anxiously awaiting the continuation of their stories and some of these characters who made it out of Endgame.
Yeah.
So that's it for me, and that is going to do it for our show. We will be back next week for another episode. For Matt and Brittany, who will be back with us full time, I'm Julian. You can catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. Have a good night.